This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on our podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. Tonight, we're going to jump in. I am so excited about the months that are ahead of us. This is a new period of time, and we're just going to go forth with boldness because I'm just excited, just getting revelation, getting understanding. God has kind of shifted me a little bit, having me to look at things from the perspective of who, what, when, where, how, and why. And I found that to be very effective, and my following, based upon the growth of it, it brings understanding. We're so inundated with so many lies, manipulation, control, and guys, I'm telling you what, in 2026, my fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters, those that are curious about what Janice Pons is talking about, listen, guys, it's going to get off, it's going to escalate in 2026. Oh, yeah, it will, and I expect it to. All the more reason to frame things around who, what, when, where, how, and why, so we can know the truth and not be snatched around like rag dolls with emotional manipulation. So we've been focused on a specific path related to gaining a clearer understanding regarding how our nation is structured, how it's supposed to work, what's been going on. The flag behind us reminds us of our nation, praying for our nation, praying for the leadership of our nation. This seal is to remind us to pray for those in the Oval Office, our president, whoever it is, the president's cabinet, the president's family, the cabinet members' family, America. Pray for America. That flag and this presidential seal represents a lot. We're going to continue to pray for the people. You know, it started in 2024 talking about the 265,900,000 working Americans who were living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. At that time, during the presidential election in 2024, that was about 78% of working Americans that were amongst that number. Well, it's gone down to about 65%. I'm keeping tabs on that. I believe it's going to continue to go down based upon the things that are unfolding in our nation. Now, the enemy of our souls, we know what our soul is: our mind, our will, our emotions, our intellect, our drive, and our desires do not want certain things to come to pass. The enemy of our souls does not want us to succeed. God has a different plan. I have a different plan. I want to get connected with the plan that's going to move us forward, particularly as it relates to our posterity, our children. That drives everything I do, particularly the older I get. So I'm going to keep coming out swinging with facts, researching. I don't look at the news. I'm going on 6 years that I don't look at the news. I just don't. Why? They lie. So why am I going to look at something and someone that lies? I just don't. So I read, research for myself, cross-document, listen to events as they occur in real time, and I use logic, deductive reasoning, and discernment. Yes. So our country's 2025 was a ride. Oh, yes. What a battle. And we won that presidential election. When I say we, I'm talking about patriots. I'm talking about people that want we the people, our citizens, to succeed. Those of us that want the truth to come out. Those of us that understand about the dynamics of orchestrated lawfare that was perpetrated upon our president. It just wasn't. It's been proven. So we had an election. 79% of the people in our country said, look, we were going in the wrong direction. Now, we've had elections in 2025. Some results came out a way that we thought would be different. There are a lot of people that are influenced by propaganda, and one side will say that that's the issue and the deal with the other side, vice versa. So all the more reason for me being so absolutely motivated to come on here and talk about who, what, when, where, how, and why. And I'm going to keep plowing at it. So I've repeatedly asked, well, who needs to be in charge on Capitol Hill, in the White House? What's at stake? Does it matter who's there? Does it matter who's on Capitol Hill? Jasmine Crockett says she's going to run for Senate. Does it matter who is the next senator from Texas or any state in this nation? And so tonight, all of these dynamics, it ties in with what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to examine something that's generated a lot of discussion because what we're going to hone in on tonight ties in with a presentation that we are being confronted with. It was on steroids in 2025. Put your seatbelt on because it's going to go to another level in terms of this presentation. And it is totalitarian rule. Totalitarian rule. And all this ties in with our clinical perspective, which is solution, focus, resolve. If we have the dynamics of totalitarian rule being presented to us, guys, I'm telling you, it's going to be imperative that those of us who get it, that have a basic logic and deductive reasoning and have discernment, godly discernment, we have got to be locked down on solution, focus, resolve. Oh, yeah. So many of us have heard, if you study history, we've heard of General George S. Patton, General Patton. He was considered one of the most feared U.S. generals who turned chaos into victory during World War II. General Patton was known for his aggressive leadership and his success in World War II, particularly in tank warfare. He's recognized as stating that the Nazi situation was like a Democratic and Republican election fight. Now, just stick with me. He had, when I was studying about him, he had a certain flow, a certain way that he thought, and I followed what he was saying. Well, General Patton argued that the Nazis had gained support through coercion and that the German people lacked the courage to resist the Nazis, comparing it to a political election where people follow a dominant party. In other words, his focus was on people not using deductive reasoning and thinking for themselves. Now, to think for yourself is one thing, but if it's not based upon facts and solid logic, based on facts, not propaganda, not twisting the truth, not lying, not deception, but basic logic and deductive reasoning and being able to take that and pull it together. And I have to add godly discernment. Oh, yeah. He said, if we don't follow that, and I'm adding on to Janice Pond's version of the discernment, he said we're going to be just like those under the influence of Nazis. Now, he startled General Patton. He startled the press. Oh, yeah, he was strong. He didn't play. And he startled the press by comparing Germans who voted for the Nazis to Americans who voted for Republicans or Democrats, depending upon what was being presented. He scrutinized political parties. That was a part of his reputation. So here we are some 80 years later, more than 80 years later since General Patton, and that comparison that he gave, it was deemed as outrageous, but actually, I'm wondering if it makes sense than most people care to admit. Anyone who can be intellectually honest has to admit, now guys, I was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I escaped that grip that they had on me. Why? I studied history that was accurately told. And I saw that I had been effectively and strategically lied to. My mind had been stolen, and I took it back. I ended up writing a book about it called Stealing the Minds of America. Mine was stolen, eaten up, and I was tripped out when I found out the truth. Stealing the minds of Americans, and we are surrounded by many millions of people that their minds have been effectively and strategically stolen, and it's driven by manipulation and emotionalism. They're being snatched around like a rag doll. And I'm going to prove it to you. This is not my opinion. We're going to go who, what, when, where, how, why. The Democratic Party has a specific type of presentation that has accosted our nation, always has, from slavery to sharecropping to Jim Crow to pushing welfare, of living on a cradle-to-grave nanny state up to today. That has influenced people in a specific type of way. That's history that's accurately told. So anyone who, and look, the Republican Party is not perfect at all. But when I saw, as a believer and a person of faith, what the Democratic Party stood for and what the party switched to what? Switched to what? That my taxpayer dollars were paying for the dismembering, burning, and liquefying of our tiny citizens for agendas and curriculums in schools where we were teaching kindergartners how to pleasure their bodies. Switch to that. That's on the platform. To middle schoolers, what they can do with their fist related to someone's body. Switch to that. Switch to we pay in foreign lands for transition surgeries, and we didn't even know that that's what it was going for. And if President Trump had not won, we would not even know. So the party switched. Well, the party switched when they talked to me and others that were Democrats, and we left. And when the party switched to what? That's what we want to know. It's real clear. That's where basic logic and deductive reasoning comes in, guys. You gotta connect the dots, or you won't. So anyone who can be intellectually honest, when we talk, here were the three things on Kamala Harris's platform: pushing the transgender platform agenda. Love them, my fellow Americans, but it was being pushed on us, pushed in our schools for us to pay for it. She wanted us to pay for it for people that were in prison. Oh, thanks for letting us know. The dismembering, burning, and liquefying of our tiny citizens who run in the womb in pain away from instruments that were ripping their bodies apart. And for illegal immigration, she was the border czar, and they willfully brought in 14 million illegal immigrants in 2003. Why did they do that? They brought in people that were COVID positive, didn't even have to test, and they made us test and were forcing us to take that shot. 8,000 of our military personnel were fired, lost their jobs because they exercised their constitutional right, guys. Switch to what? So anyone who can be intellectually honest has to admit that the Democratic Party has become a profoundly destructive force of extremes. It's the extremes that stand out. Republicans have been far from perfect, but it's the extremes, guys. If you pay attention and listen to the leaders of the Democratic Party, one would have to admit that they incite violence. They wink at assassination attempts and encourage riots to block the Trump administration's efforts to deport illegal immigrants, including criminal offenders, some of which have accosted the bodies of children. And they don't want any accountability. Do you hear me? Switch to what? The party switched. Switched to what? And I always say, the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal. Obama has been involved with it. He's been pushing an agenda for 17 years now. It's the truth. I know it, and I can prove it. I got the receipts. Joe Biden was in the White House, but he was he was vice president, and then he became president. We know all of the. He got more votes than Obama, they said. So the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal imported over 14 million illegal immigrants into our nation in 2023 as future Democratic voters. That's a staggering truth. Absolutely staggering. This issue has been This has evolved into being all about safety and a matter of national security, as it turns out that we don't even know who these people are that have been led into our nation. Remember that 14 million illegal immigrants were let in here in 2023 alone. Let that marinate. Let's pause for 5 seconds. Let that marinate. So, are we dealing with totalitarian rule in America? Is that what we were being confronted with what they did to us? As they have done this, they have tried to paint the Trump administration as the enemy. They were the ones that the party switched those agendas that were being pushed on us. They were the ones that all of these things that have unfolded that have turned out to be fraudulent scams, from the stimulus packet to Obamacare to COVID-19 to USAID NGOs to illegal immigration. Guys, 5 major things that were thrust upon us, and it was driven, as it's turned out, it's been all driven by fraudulent scams. Look back at any videos that I've done. Look back at any of my reels, REELS. You'll see. It's all laid out, and I'm not just coming out of emotionality. The receipts are there. Look at Somalia, what's going on with the Somalians in Minnesota. Look at what's going on in Maine. Just look at what the reality is. What do we mean by totalitarian rule? Totalitarian rule is a form of government where the state, often led by a single party or leader, seeks to control every aspect of public and private life. You remember, they were arresting people in parking lots who were doing COVID-19 that were in parking lots having church. They weren't going inside buildings. They were arresting old people. You remember that? It uses propaganda, censorship, and secret police, wiretapping, secret, covert operations, going in people's houses, going through former first ladies' underwear, dresser drawers. So, propaganda, censorship. The censorship thing, President Trump, he sued people left and right and won. If it wasn't true, why did he win? Secret police, why? To suppress opposition and maintain power. It's been all about power and control, with individual freedoms completely subordinated to the state's goals and ideology. Some may think that this is too harsh, yet if one ever grasps that this has been perpetrated upon us through the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal, they're going to begin to see. Guys, this is not my opinion. We're talking about things that have actually unfolded in our nation. We have dissected what occurred through the stimulus package, Obamacare, the COVID-19, USAID NGOs, and illegal immigration. All of them involved fraud, scams, and being money laundering fronts, arrests, and indictments to go with them. We've named the companies who got millions upon millions of dollars from the stimulus packet, only to file bankruptcy later. Obamacare was a scam as well, with companies walking away with padded pockets and citizens being stuck with huge health care bills, huge deductibles, and sky-high premiums that just continued to go out of control. We've dissected what actually happened with the fiasco. All of those fiascos. The COVID-19 monies were abused over and over again, with people ended up being arrested for their fraudulent scams as they received millions of dollars. The most blatant example with COVID-19 is what's occurred in Minnesota. It's not an isolated event, though. You have cases here in Oklahoma. They just have used millions of dollars, setting up fronts, didn't even provide the services, millions of meals that didn't even get served, but they got the money, but they've been caught. They're fraudulent scams. All 5 of those areas, guys, we've got the receipts on how they were fraudulent scams. Go back and look at my reels. I've laid all this out. NGOs were money laundering fronts. They got millions upon millions of dollars as relatives lived lavish, the guys, they live lavish lifestyles while people were suffering. And the money went specifically towards funding a sexual agenda in foreign lands, paying for surgeries as an example of a specific agenda. Under the leadership of Marco Rubio, I've said it once, I'll say it again, hats off to him, 83% of the NGOs have been shut down, contracts canceled. They're just not honored because he found out through President Trump's leadership, and they want to write him off like he's a goofball, one of the best presidents out of 13 that I've seen. He's uncovered all of this fraudulent, criminal action. And they perpetrated the orchestrated lawfare against him. Yes, he did what to a woman 30 years ago? What did he do to a woman 30 years ago? Let that marinate. Basic logic and deductive reasoning will get us a long way, along with discernment. Then there's the fiasco of illegal immigration. Illegal immigration, boy, that's a Trojan horse. We were paying for their benefits, even criminals, while Americans suffered. In Virginia, Democrats just elected an inexperienced attorney general who once wished death upon a Republican leader and his children. Two Bullets Jones, a man with no serious professional experience and a long public record of hate-filled rhetoric, is now the state's top law enforcement officer. His victory didn't trouble Virginia's Democratic establishment. They weren't troubled by it. Democrats defended him. They celebrated him and made clear that they see nothing disqualifying about open derangement when it serves a particular cause. Now, here's the tactics. We're talking about who, what, when, where, how, why. And all of this is under the umbrella of totalitarian rule. Here are the tactics, guys. The deceit, manipulation, and contempt, deceit, manipulation, and contempt for constitutional limits. It echoes the methods the Nazis used to dismantle parts of Germany. How? From within. From within. What are we to do when there is a celebration of political violence, erasure of gender distinctions? What are we to do with that? Just go, thanks for letting us know, getting everything straightened out. We had it wrong all along, I guess. Oh, yeah. So, what are we to do with the celebration of political violence, erasure of gender distinctions, tearing down of monuments, degrading of men, and promotion of the mutilation of confused children in the name of affirmation? What are we to do with that? What are we to do with that being pushed on our children, our kindergartners? Many of the Democrats' most reliable constituencies, who are college-educated women, black voters, and recent immigrants, they embrace the movement's nihilism without the desperation, excuse me, guys, pardon me, please, without the desperation that once drove Germans to extremism. So, here's a question. Have we gotten to the point of extremism? Have we gotten to the point of extremism in our nation? Nihilism believes that life is inherently meaningless and that concepts like purpose, objective morality, and knowledge are simply illusions. Their loyalty is ideological, not circumstantial, and that makes the threat more enduring. Nihilism rejects all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. This is just the opposite of people of faith. The so-called conservative establishment, especially the Murdoch media, has preached common ground and dialogue. Guys, let's just find some common ground. Let's just have dialogue. My motto on social media is what would happen if we talk to and with each other versus at each other. Its members have treated the left as a legitimate partner. Oh, guys, we can partner on this. Even as it dismantled every shared institution. A serious conservative movement would treat the Democrats not as rivals, but as a subversive force bent on domination. Guys, no lies detected. A serious conservative, guys, they go for the jugular vein. They celebrate, guys, under that BLM rioting, over 24 Americans lost their lives, and I know of accountability with 2 cases. They celebrated that. With what happened to President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, I don't wish that on anybody, but it was celebrated. It is what it is. They promote an agenda of death. The dismembering, burning, and liquefying of our tiny citizens, and we're all supposed to want to contribute our taxpayer dollars to it. So a serious conservative movement would treat the Democrats, that's their agenda. The party switched to what? It is what it is, guys. They would treat the Democrats not as rivals, but as a subversive force bent on domination. What do you do with that? We're talking about who, what, when, where, how, why. They control, listen guys, they control the mainstream media, public education. They've controlled heretofore entertainment and the bureaucracy. The task is not to appease them, but to weaken their grip. This is what we're dealing with. This is our reality. We're going to submit to it and fall to it. Or go, we got to stand up and save a nation. That means defunding their institutions, and that's what President Trump did. This is why they want to paint him as a goofball and lie, because the money laundering fronts, their money sources dried up. 83% of the NGOs have been shut down. The scams and the fraud have been exposed. This has never been the case before. They have a shrinking administrative state. Cutting federal money to the states and cities run by radical leftists is a reality for them, like Virginia, California, New Jersey, Minnesota, among others that are going to fall. Have we come to the point where Washington should stop subsidizing those who despise the nation it governs? I'm just thinking out loud. Guys, it's a lot on the line. It is what it is, and we can't dress this thing up. We got to call a spade and say, here's what we're dealing with, my brothers and sisters and my fellow Americans. The vapid notion that we all want the same things for our children only empowers those who plainly do not. We don't want the same thing. Stop saying that. It's not, we just want the same thing. We don't. Listen, they want to rule, not reconcile. They don't mind harming. They tear up. They burn down. This all leads to our clinical perspective, guys. I'm just painting a picture. This is our reality. What must be done for us to have solution-focused resolve? Where are we going to go with this? We've got to have solution-focused resolve. Conservatives must demand fair, transparent elections conducted in designated polling places on election day under bipartisan supervision, not some mail-in ballots, not some, when COVID-19, it was a pandemic, people dropping off stuff at these designated places, and it was on video showing the same people showing up, dumping. It was a mess. It was a mess. We need designated polling places, and that's how it used to be. Election day, you voted and it was over, and you knew who won that night. This is exactly what Laura Trump, President Trump's daughter-in-law, spearheaded in the election in 2024. The organization called We the Action had over 6,500 lawyers with boots on the ground to hold people accountable for suspicious actions. People who had stood in lines for hours were told that they could not vote after 2 or 3 o'clock. That was stopped dead in its tracks, because they were trying to vote who could vote. They were trying to control who could vote. Voter identification should be federally required. A safeguard, not a surrender of state authority, which has long been diluted anyway. That we have had illegal immigrants voting. They said that's not true. It's a lie. Yes, they have. It's been proven. Before Senate Democrats move to end the filibuster to cement their control, President Trump and his allies should act first. Forget committee, something called committee. Far too many Democrats, they don't know how to be honest. Well, we're going to be honest. We're going to show mutual respect and courtesy. They don't know how to do it. Listen to what they say. And look and observe and analyze what they've done. Remember, some wanted President Trump to be unalived. The GOP cannot afford another cycle of deference to rules their opponents ignore. They ignore rules. They simply don't follow rules and laws. They lie, they cheat, and they perpetrate orchestrated lawfare. That's what was leased on Donald Trump. The moment where we are now, right now, guys, it demands moral clarity, not compromise. The Democratic Party is not merely misguided. Oh, well, they just don't. Nope. It's very willful. It's very orchestrated. It has become an organized threat to constitutional government and civil peace, and it's easy to prove. I'm not making this stuff up. Y'all know if you're paying attention. And those of you who are just, well, you know, sometime, no, you know what? We got a country to save, and our posterity is on the line. Treating it as anything less will only hasten the day when America wakes up to find itself a one-party state. Historically, have they proven that they can be trusted to do the right thing? Have they? Remember the undeniable thrust of the Obama-Biden-Harris cabal with the stimulus packet, Obamacare, COVID-19, USAID, NGOs, and illegal immigration. They all ended up being fraudulent money laundering scams. That's heavy. Those 5 different things that our taxpayer dollars paid for, my money, your money, fraudulent money laundering scams, and it's all coming out. And if Donald Trump had not been elected, it'd still be going on. We knew something wasn't right, but we couldn't put our finger on it. Now we know. Now we know. Either all the U.S. Constitution laws are enforced, or we're going to lose this nation. How many illegal aliens voted in the 2024 election? None of them should have, but they did. Let's start with that law. Let's start with cleaning up elections and impeaching rogue lawfare judges. Let's start there. The DNC has lost its identity, guys. It just has. They've proven it. Look at all the scams. Look at all the fraud. It replaced dignity, honesty, and morality with mammon. You can't serve God and mammon too. We're one nation under God. We're trying to be indivisible with liberty and justice for all if you're doing the right thing. We don't need to, I'm not sending one dime to any political organization until they do the right thing. Hold total accountability. That's for the RNC and the DNC. The uniparty is not for us, not for God and country. And it is time to take a stand, guys, to restore this nation to once being the nation that's under God, the land of liberty, and one where justice for all truly prevails. Guys, we got to have a political party that's going to enforce the law of the land, the Constitution. If it's the Republican Party, so be it. It definitely is not the Democratic Party. It's not. One thing for sure is that we need leadership to get honest, stop playing these games, or get the H-E double hockey sticks out of our way. H-E double hockey sticks. Visualize it. What have we looked at tonight? Get out of our way, because we got a country to save, and we do not want any more lives that are lost. Guys, it is what it is. We went a few minutes over, but these things are important. What have we looked at tonight? We've looked at totalitarian rule. Is that what we've been subjected to? And our clinical perspective has explored solution-focused resolve. Guys, we got to get more resolved more than ever. 2026, this year is real pivotal. We've been all over the place. It's been a sinking ship, guys, and we just got to decide what we're going to do. And I implore you, I encourage you to use basic logic, deductive reasoning, and come to the truth. We are one nation under God. We are indivisible with liberty and justice for all. The future of this country is on the line. The enemy of our souls is going for the jugular vein of this country like never before. Why? They don't have the money that they had before. And President Trump has invested, the Trump accounts is coming out, Independence Day of 2026, July 4th. Guys, that's never been done before. We're going to continue to dissect those types of things. We got some decisions to make. I'm believing that as we go forth and we examine who, what, when, where, how, why, we're going to get an understanding, because wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. But in all thy getting, get understanding. That is our spiritual truth. Guys, we got to understand. So the who, what, when, where, how, why frames it all. I'm challenging us to think for ourselves, to use basic logic, deductive reasoning, make a stand for this nation like never before, because we got a lot on the line. Listen, we're going to keep going in. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. I will see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are God-empowered, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.